Hello there, welcome to part 9 of my Clone Wars analysis series. In today's video we'll be examining Cloak of Darkness, Season 1, Episode 9. The goal of this series is to unpack the Clone Wars animated show and look closely at its themes, characters, and politics. As always, there will be spoilers as we're covering the entire episode and series. That said, let's jump into it. Cloak of Darkness follows Bombad Jedi and is technically a story arc, but the narrative themes and characters present in the story are so drastically different from the episode prior that it almost feels like a standalone episode. Previously, New Gunray was captured by the Republic tanks Padme and Jar Jar. Now, Luminara, Unduli, and Ahsoka Tano are going to escort Gunray back to Coruscant. This makes some sense as it was Luminara's troops who were in the Outer Rim and were able to get to Rhodia in the prior episode to capture Gunray. As to why Ahsoka is with Luminara and not her own apprentice, Barriss, I am not sure. However, Ahsoka being present is important to the narrative as her unique perspective on things, thanks to Anakin's teaching, helps Luminara when their ship gets under attack. The quote for the episode is, "Ignore your instincts at your peril," and it matches the themes in the episode as Ahsoka follows her instincts. Gunray tries to bribe Commander Gree and says that he is a man of great wealth and is very generous to his allies, but as we saw in Bombad Jedi, he's very selfish and not generous at all. He's a coward and he's trying to weasel out of going to jail. Gree sarcastically declines. A bit later on, Gunray says that his capture is a miscarriage of justice. This is arguably because the Trade Federation is neutral in the Clone War. However, his imprisonment of Padme in the prior episode and his history of bad behavior shows that he's not really neutral at all. We meet Captain Argaius, who says, "We have the brig all ready for this traitor," which is ironic wording as Argaius himself is a traitor, as he will help Gunray escape later on. Gunray hasn't betrayed anyone really, unless the Separatist movement is seen as a betrayal of the Republic. Argaius' wording highlights the future twist of the episode that he is indeed the traitor on board the ship. Ahsoka asks Luminara about the Senate Commandos and how Gunray warrants such high security in addition to the clones that they have. She doesn't think he looks dangerous. Luminara tells her, "Don't let your overconfidence give Gunray another advantage, Ahsoka." As we see in Star Wars often, such as Anakin on Mustafar or Grievous in the Malevolence arc earlier on the show, overconfidence is a weakness. Usually it is the trait of those on the dark side, but in this instance, young Ahsoka underestimates Gunray. This scene is important as Luminara is trying to teach Ahsoka about overconfidence, when later on, Luminara will have the same underestimation of the enemy. We then get a scene of Sidious talking with Dooku, saying that Gunray's capture is a threat to their plans and the Separatists overall. He acknowledges that Gunray is cowardly and will give away information when interrogated. Dooku sends Ventress to save Gunray, or silence him. That wording is pretty important to note, as while Gunray is important to them, they would rather kill him than have him be in prison. This demonstrates the expendable nature of the dark side, and even higher up, Sidious's own apprentices are expendable. He replaced Maul, and then he replaces Dooku the second Anakin is stronger than him. The silencing of Gunray is also important to note, because Gunray knows about Darth Sidious, and was mentioned alongside the Sith name to Obi-Wan on Geonosis by Dooku. Sidious notes that Ventress has failed them before, but with Dooku's word, greenlights the mission. Dooku tells Ventress that there is no margin for error and that she must prove herself worthy of being his apprentice. The proving of worth is something we see here with the Sith, and we see in the next episode with Lair of Grievous, but we don't really see this proving of worth with the Jedi, as the Jedi allow their apprentices to make mistakes and learn. Ventress' status as an apprentice is super important later on in the show's lifespan, as she loses it just like Ahsoka, and that allows her to relate to her. While that plot point wasn't planned at this point, the characters are still in this position of apprenticeship, which helps define their development. Luminara interrogates Gunray, sensing his concern and fear over losing his wealth and power. Fear, as Yoda states, is the root of the dark side. Gunray isn't a character that evolves out of fear like Anakin, yet he remains in it. He's afraid of Sidious and Phantom Menace, and afraid of losing his power throughout the war. Fear is linked to attachment. While Anakin was afraid of losing his mom and Padme, Gunray is afraid of losing his power, which eventually of course he did. Gunray tries to say that he is an innocent and that he's a pawn, but Luminara can sense that he is protecting someone and says that he has secret allies. This is without a doubt Darth Sidious, which highlights why Palpatine was so distressed about Gunray's capture, as he has information that can potentially help expose him. While Luminara is calm in the interrogation, Ahsoka gets frustrated with Gunray's lying and pulls out her lightsaber on him to get him to talk. Luminara has to tell her, terror is not a weapon the Jedi use. This is true, but we will see as the show progresses that Anakin does use terror as a weapon, which shows his progression towards the dark side. The cruiser gets boarded by super battle droids and Ventress. Ventress goes to the engine room and plants bombs. This will cripple the ship, and in addition to the super battle droids will allow for Gunray to be rescued. With this done, Ventress breaks into the detention level with her lightsabers and confronts Ahsoka. During their lightsaber fight, Ventress defeats 2 of the Senate commandos, but leaves Captain Argaius alive, which again hints to his allegiance with Gunray. Ventress frees Gunray momentarily, but Luminara returns from stopping the assault. Ventress flees the detention level by jumping down the elevator shaft. Ahsoka is ready to run and jump after her, but Luminara catches her moments before and an elevator goes crushing down, which could have killed Ahsoka if she did indeed jump. Ahsoka had too much tunnel vision on stopping Ventress that she wasn't aware of her surroundings, which speaks to her youth as a Jedi. Ironically, moments later, Luminara says that she will go confront Ventress, while everybody else stays with Gunray. She demonstrated awareness seconds earlier, but is now in her own form of tunnel vision, and Ahsoka has swapped as well. Ahsoka says that Luminara will need help to fight Ventress, but Luminara declines this. She calls Ventress an undisciplined assassin, and underestimates Ventress in the same way that Ahsoka underestimated Gunray earlier on. Luminara told Ahsoka to not let her overconfidence give the enemy advantage, but that is what she's doing herself in this moment. Ahsoka's instincts tell her that Luminara may be strong, but that she can't defeat Ventress, and she really wants to go help her. Argaius, a traitor who wants to free Gunray, encourages her to act on her instincts by saying, sometimes being a good soldier means doing what you think is right. Ahsoka is still conflicted, and Gunray says that he wouldn't disobey a direct order, but Argaius convinces Ahsoka to do it. Gunray presents a third perspective with, I don't risk my own skin unless I don't have to, which is the nature and perspective of a coward. Ventress does indeed get the upper hand on Luminara by partially blinding her with steam and knocking pipes on top of her. Ahsoka followed her instincts and saves Luminara at the last second. Argaius betrays his men and frees Gunray while fighting Commander Greed. He reveals his intentions behind the betrayal, saying that Dooku is paying him a fortune, showing that greed is the motivator behind the immorality. After fighting Ventress, Luminara calls Ahsoka by her first name instead of Padawan Tano. She also recognizes her failure and that she should have listened to Ahsoka. This is a good moment in the character development because as the show presents it, Luminara is a very traditional and by-the-book Jedi. In the beginning she was very formal with Ahsoka, and as we see in Season 2, she is very formal with her own apprentice, Barriss. While Anakin and Ahsoka have a lot more of a personal friendship, Luminara engages in that personal friendship with Ahsoka right here. While Greed and Argaius fight, Argaius says, a clone like you would never understand. Argaius is a free thinker, which means he can do whatever he wants, and that includes betray the Republic. Greed is a clone and was raised to follow orders and have loyalty to the Republic. Argaius brings up his quote on instincts that he said earlier to Ahsoka in doing what you think is right. However, what he's doing isn't right. However, because everyone is an individual with their own lives and experiences, what one person thinks is right won't be right for everyone. It isn't Argaius, but Gunray who stops Greed by smashing him on the back with a blaster, which is a bit ironic as Gunray asked Greed to join him earlier. Argaius is selfish and thinking of his image by saying he'll be a legend for the rescue. He's too self-centered and bold, saying that he'll report it to Count Dooku and include Ventress in it as like a side add-on, which causes Ventress to kill him. Gunray told Argaius he had a good feeling about him, but the second Argaius is out of the picture and Ventress has control, Gunray tells her that he had a good feeling about her, which is a parallel statement to what he told Argaius. Gunray is cowardly and serves the one with the highest power around him, which is why he serves Darth Sidious. At the conclusion of the episode, Luminara says, teaching is usually the role of the master to Ahsoka. In the beginning, she tried to teach Ahsoka about overconfidence, but it was Ahsoka who taught her about it. If we think about the Clone Wars broadly, Ahsoka teaches Anakin all the time. As early as Shadow of the Malevolence, she helps open his eyes about his shortcomings with ego. Ahsoka is compared with Barriss directly in Season 2 as two different types of Padawans. Knowing that both Luminara and Barriss are by the book and traditional Jedi, unlike Anakin and Ahsoka, it might be safe to assume that Luminara doesn't learn that much from Barriss because she takes the master role too seriously. We will talk a lot more about this when Season 2 comes around, but I do think there's a fundamental difference in Anakin and Luminara's teaching styles, which reflect the differences in their students, which then reflect the differences in themselves.